Good morning, everyone. Now today I have my mother coming over for coffee, and when you say coffee you say cake or you say pie. So I decided to make something which is, well, probably one of the most traditional pies in the Belgian baking arsenal, which is indeed a rice pudding pie. So we will be making indeed everything again from scratch. So starting with our rice pudding, but also our pie dough. Now in this case, again, for our rice pudding we will need a few ingredients, which will be indeed some rice. Now traditionally what I use is dessert rice. Unfortunately I found out that I don't really have enough today to finish this recipe, so we will be substituting for some risotto rice. Also a very nice alternative if you can't really find a dessert rice, which is a pretty rare thing. You can substitute for some risotto rice. We will need, of course, for our pudding some sugar, part of which will be some vanilla sugar, a vanilla bean, and 2 eggs. Yolks and whites will be used. As for the pie dough, it is a little bit different than what most people know. So I will be making a pie dough like a true traditional Limburg pie, vlaai as they are called, which is actually a risen dough. So we will indeed be using our standard pastry flour, again a bit of sugar, a bit of milk. By the way, for the entire recipe, especially to make for a nice creamy rice pudding, use whole fat milk, and some baker's yeast. This bread or this dough will indeed be allowed to rise for a good hour or two before we actually bake it. So this is one that has a few steps. It's not an easy pie to make, it takes some time, but the result is really fantastic if it's homemade. But enough said, let's get cooking. To get started, we will of course make our dough. As I said before, this dough is a little special, as it is indeed a dough that uses baker's yeast, which is pretty special for a pie dough. But in order to make this, we will combine about 200 grams of all-purpose flour. We will add 15 grams of butter, 10 centiliters of milk. I've already added, by the way, a pinch of salt into our flour. We will add 2 good tablespoons of sugar. It is of course a pie dough. Mix it around somewhat. Add again 15 grams. I'm just estimating roundabout. I know that one package is, there we go, 20, so just under half of one packet of our fresh yeast. There we go. And the last ingredient will be 1 egg yolk. Now don't throw away the whites. As you'll see, we will recuperate them in our rice pudding later on. So again, nothing difficult. As usual, I'm doing this by hand, but combine everything together until you don't have, or your dough does not stick together anymore. And after that, we can let our dough rest for about 2-3 hours. So our dough has come together. In all honesty, I did have to add, I think, about 20 grams extra flour. It's been a while since I made this recipe, so my notes and my knowledge are a little rusty. But the dough is still a little bit tacky, sticky, which we want. But it has nicely come together and it's no longer sticking to my fingers. So I've just coated this with a bit of flour on the bottom of the pot, and we will let this rise for 2 hours. Now if you would like to use any other type of pie dough, you can, but I would advise, as we're working with a liquid pudding, to first blind bake your pie in that case before you actually finish it up. Next order of business, that will be indeed to make our pudding. Our rice pudding. So as you can see, we already have some rice here. Now I decided to live life a little bit dangerously. As I said, I still had a little bit of dessert rice, which I frankly wanted to get rid of, and some of my risotto rice. They're not exactly the same types of rice, but they do have similar cook times, so we will join them together. As you see, I've already scraped out my vanilla bean. I will be adding also the bean itself. To this we will add, so it's about 70 grams of rice, to which we add about half a liter of milk, and about 100 grams of sugar, of which 10 grams is vanilla sugar. Only thing left to do, that is basically to bring this to a gentle heat. Again, gentle for about half an hour, and from time to time keep stirring with your trusty wooden spoon. Now the only thing I would want to stress on, just like a risotto, this will need about a half an hour to simmer, but just like a risotto, don't dare to turn away. So you have to, from afar, at least try to keep an eye on it, because this stuff will burn faster than, well, faster than you can learn any of the Dutch or French curse words that go along with burnt rice pudding. So just keep attention, stir every couple of minutes so that your liquid gets well incorporated into your rice. We will tackle the next order of business, which are our egg whites. Now the thing is, we want to again beat these two. They don't have to be really stiff, but we want to beat them nicely fluffy, so that later on we will be able to combine these into our pudding. The two yolks I've already separated and put aside to finish our pudding with, but that will be our next point of call. So at this moment we're at the stage that we have, well, basically a very basic rice porridge. So our rice has nicely puffed up, is showing up through our milk, and is cooked through. Now again, this is how you make a standard, what's referred to in Dutch as a rice porridge, or in French a riz au lait. But we want to be making a pudding. For this we will of course need some eggs. In this case, our two remaining egg yolks. And again, what we mainly want to be doing is tempering our egg into the hot mixture. And just allow to, indeed, voila, stiffen up a little bit more. Our dough is nice and bubbly, risen, and time to roll out. It's still a bit sticky, so we will again roll in some flour, dust a little bit more, and start simply by rolling out our dough. So, last port of call, that is actually finishing our filling. So we have here our rice pudding that's become nice and stiff, to which we just need to add our egg whites. Now the only thing we want is to try and keep the egg whites from deflating. They will deflate some, but as little as possible. So we will simply fold these in as gently as we can, allowing as much air as possible to stay into the mixture. All that's left is to add this mixture into our mold. Now this will bake in a 200-degree oven. That's centigrade. I'm not really too great. I think it's about 425 Fahrenheit for about 20 to 25 minutes. Again, this is one of these pies. Keep an eye on it. The top will burn up before you know it. Our pie is out of the oven. As you can see, we have some lovely caramelized rice pudding on top.
The only thing is we have to let this cool completely for at least 1 hour, and at that time it will have firmed up. We can cut, serve this. Well, this deserves, or this needs nothing more than just a good cup of coffee or good cup of tea, and just enjoy.